Hello, and welcome to Tea with Jess. I'm author Jess Montgomery, and I'm delighted you're joining me for a little tea break. As Nana says in my kinship mystery series, life is hard, have tea. And today's mug is my disaster mug, again, with robots and oh, I think there's a giant octopus and a dragon, all kinds of things on this disaster mug. I was just chatting with my friend Heather, who we're going to bring on in a minute, about events with my car and trees around my house. So I felt like the disaster mug was appropriate. Life is hard, have tea. But we're going to focus on positive things because today I'm chatting with Heather Weber, who is one of the most prolific and delightful writers I know. As Heather Weber, she's written two mystery series, the Nina Quinn Mysteries, featuring a landscape designer, and the Lucy Valentine series, featuring a matchmaker with a unique twist. Lucy matches up people and their lost objects. And as Heather Blake, she's written two additional mystery series, the Wishcraft Mysteries and the Magic Potion Mysteries. Now she's back to writing as Heather Weber, and she's writing standalone magical realism novels, all set in Alabama, which we're going to talk about a little bit, and all built around themes of family, forgiveness, and relationships. And her first two magical realism novels are Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe and South of the Buttonwood Tree. But today we're going to chat about her newest novel, The Lights of Sugarberry Cove, which comes out tomorrow. So after we have this chat, or even while we're having this chat, be sure to pre-order The Lights of Sugarberry Cove, and it will come to you. It will wing its way to you from an indie bookstore or an online bookstore in the next couple of days, or run out tomorrow and get a copy of The Lights of Sugarberry Cove. Now, I have to give a full disclosure. Heather is not just one of my favorite authors. She's actually one of my very best friends. So I'm really delighted to welcome her here. I'm going to bring her on now. Welcome to Heather Weber. There she is. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi, it's so good to see you, even through our little screen here. Folks, if you're watching, feel free to leave comments or questions for us as we chat, and I'll do my best to see if I can keep up with whatever the comments are and questions, and we'll talk about them at the end. But in the meantime, Heather, give us, with no spoilers, an overview of what is The Lights of Sugarberry Cove.
So basically, it is two sisters who have to go home to their mother's bed and breakfast inn where they were born and raised and help her run the inn while she recovers from a heart attack. And it's all about them trying to fix their broken family, find their way back to each other, find their way back to themselves, really.
Mm.
Um, and there's a little lake magic involved.
Ooh, lake magic.
Lake
But
magic.
I want to know more about that in a minute. That's an intriguing. That's an intriguing description. I like that. They find their way back to each other, but also find themselves. And yeah, the plot revolves around sisters who aren't quite fully estranged, but who definitely have issues in their relationship and need healing. And so, what inspired you to want to write about that kind of relationship?
I love to write about family dysfunction, which my family is my family is not dysfunctional, so I don't know where that desire comes from. I have a deep interest in psychology, so I
Mhm.
kind of like to explore those relationships a lot, and I think there's a lot to play with sisters and mothers and daughters.
Sisters and mothers and daughters. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, three of your four mystery series include magical elements.
Mhm.
And of course, your recent standalones all have magical realism. But so, what draws you to write stories involving magical elements?
I love the idea of magic. I love looking for magic. There's a quote by Roald Dahl that's basically, if you're not looking for magic, you'll never find it.
Oh,
And I look for magic. I look for it everywhere. I look for it especially in nature, in you ever look really closely at a flower and the buds and the little pollen stems, and I mean, it's amazing. And I know it's science, but to me, there's just a little bit of magic there too.
Yeah. So what kind of magic do you find or see in a lake, around a lake?
Oh my gosh, I live about a block from a lake, so and it
Uh-huh.
has a trail around it. And so we walk it all the time. And the lake, there's something different every time you go around the lake. There's the waterfowl between the ducks and the geese and the heron and the fish. You can when the fish breach the water. I actually have a scene in the book where a fish breaches the water because it's happened to me, and I'm like, I need to put that in there because it scares the bejeebers out of you.
You mean
It's
like if it jumps out of the water?
yeah. You're just
That
walking
scares you?
along and it jumps and there's this huge splash and you're like, what in the world was that?
You just need to take a net, catch the fish,
Yeah.
take it home, cook it
Cook it
up,
up.
a little bit of sea salt and butter. It's fine.
It's a catch and
Oh,
release, Lake
it's a
Sharon.
it's a
Oh, Jess,
tagline.
sorry.
Catch and release. Well, Janet has commented that the afternoon sparkle is always magical on a pond or lake.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's
And even on the flip side of that, when it's cloudy, there's like a silver cast to the lake. I have a
hmm.
picture, it's taken in the autumn. There's a tree across the lake in somebody's yard it's a red maple. So it's just
Oh.
brilliant red in the autumn, and it's reflected on the lake on a cloudy day, and it's just gorgeous.
So where did the idea for this book come from, that walk around the lake? Where did this idea find you, or where did you find it?
So the original like seed of this book started when a family friend went to a water lantern festival down in
Oh,
Lexington, and
okay.
I was captivated by the idea of the water lantern festival, where they write on the lantern itself on one of the side panels their hopes and wishes and dreams, and they set it afloat. And it's usually at night, so all the lanterns are kind of sparkling on the water, their flames and their candles. And I was wondering what would happen if those wishes could actually come true.
Ah, and
And
that's where
if
your
they,
writers.
yeah, and if they came true, was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Hmm. That's true, because wishes coming true doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily. Be careful what you wish for. You might get
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
And so from there, I knew I wanted water lantern, and then living near
Mhm.
the lake, I wanted to include that. So they kind of just blended together and became
Okay.
Lake Laurel, which is a fictional
Oh,
lake in Alabama that has a special water lantern festival every summer where wishes can come true.
okay. Lake Laurel.
Hmm.
That's lovely. And there's a lantern on the cover of your book
Yes, with a loon on it, and
with a
there's a
loon.
very special loon on Lake Laurel.
Ah, can you tell us about the loon, or is that a spoiler?
Well, there's rumors that the loon is the lady of the lake, who is the one
Ooh.
that grants the wishes.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all about kindness and goodness. And there's a little bit mystery. Does she really exist? Doesn't she? Where did this loon come from? How does it play a part in the story? But that's all. It's just too much of a spoiler alert, so I can't give too much away.
Yeah, don't give it too much away, but you've intrigued us all. And that cover, I have to say, is incredibly gorgeous.
I have
It's a
been so lucky with covers.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cover.
The art department, I love them.
Yes. Um, well, and you mentioned there's a mystery about does she really exist, this lady of the lake, or
Mhm.
what's really happening with this? And of course, all of your most recent novels, they're not categorized as mystery, but they all have a mystery element to them.
Mhm.
And of course, I would argue that all stories are mysteries in a way.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but you've written quite a few mystery novels. So what inspired you to, I don't want to say leave that behind, because like I said, your books still have that element of mystery, but what inspired you to transition, if you will, to standalone magical realism novels that really focus on relationships and family?
Well, I think that if you're a reader of mine who have followed me from the beginning or even from the middle, you saw the direction I was going in
Yeah.
with especially my Wishcraft series, because that was 9 books that followed a very specific mystery arc. But underneath all of that, there was character development. And by the end of it, I had more about the characters and their emotional journeys than I really did about the mysteries. And so I knew it was really time for me to move on. And there was an upheaval at the publishing house. And it was time for me to make a choice whether I wanted to continue to write mysteries, maybe for a different house, or take a leap and do something I really wanted to do for a while. So I took the leap.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I mean, I've known you since that first Nina Quinn book. Do we want to say how long?
2004.
I was going to say, do we want to say how long ago that was? So that's almost 20 years. Gosh, it doesn't seem that long.
No, it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But so I've known you from the beginning, at least. Of you had a couple novels before that, right? You
Hmm.
had
With a very small press, yeah.
with a very small press, but I've known you since the very beginning of the Nina Quinn books, and so I feel like I know you really super well. But even in just writing up my little intro for you today, I thought, oh, yeah, I see this arc in Heather's writing, and how it's progressed. And so I'm wondering if your experience as a mystery novelist kind of helped you. Were there things you had to get over, so to speak, from having been a mystery novelist to write these standalones, or were there also things that helped you write these that come from your mystery writing experience? How different is it to write these?
The biggest difference is I used to write series.
Mm-hmm.
So in each book I wrote, except for the very last one in each series, there was always open-ended questions that would be answered in the next book or maybe the next book after that. But in a standalone, everything has to be wrapped up all in this pretty package by the end of the last page. So that was like a big deal for me to, oh, did I wrap this part up? I planted this clue, but did I go back and finish that off for the reader to understand where I was going? Um, so that was the biggest thing. But I think that, like you said, every book is kind of a mystery, and I think that mysteries truly drive a story. Um, Even if it's a really small mystery, like my books, these current ones don't have dead bodies except for the next one. Um,
Ooh,
I know.
Heather.
Spoiler. Um, they don't have like that. There's a body found. There's an amateur sleuth looking for it, but there's family mysteries. Um, there's secrets that need to be solved, and I think that helps drive the story to the conclusion.
Yeah. So these sisters, like, why, what caused them to drift apart, and will they get back together? Though,
Right.
those
Yeah.
are, will the relationship be healed? Those are mysteries
Right.
of the human heart. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So I'm fascinated that you're drawn to write stories set in Alabama. You visit there quite often, I know, but you
Mhm.
don't live there. We're
Mm-mm.
Ohioans. And before you were a Buckeye, you lived in other states, but not Alabama. And I know you've written an essay for Tor that folks can find on your website. And everybody, her website is www.heatherweber.com. So you can go to her website, find out about where to order all of her books. And also there's a link to this essay that you wrote about why Alabama. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about that. Why Alabama?
I get that question almost every time I have an event, and
Mm-hmm.
It's not so simple. It's kind of a simple answer, and it's not so simple because it goes back to that little bit of magic we talked about and how I look for it. In 2007, I went to a book conference in Birmingham, Murder in the Magic City,
Mm.
and they have a sister event in Wetumpka. Um, and so I had rented a car to drive from one event to the other, and it's about 90 minutes or so. And I took the back roads, the country roads, and the window was down, and it was February, and the weather was mild, and it was farms and fields and old houses and new houses and, kudzu covered fences and,
Oh my.
rusty buses in somebody's yard. And it was just all of that, but there was just something in the air and I loved it. I'm like, I just loved it there. And by the time I left, that feeling hadn't waned. And I knew that if I couldn't live down there, because it felt like home. I don't know
Oh.
why, it felt like home. I knew if I couldn't live there, that I could write books there. And then I
Hmm.
could keep going back all I wanted. So I actually have a mystery series set there. Um, as Heather Blake. It's my potion series. It's set in
Right.
outside of Huntsville, and I knew with my standalones I wanted to go back. So
Okay.
each of my standalones are set there, and they're in different parts of the state. They're fictional towns, but they're near real towns that I do mention in the book. So you kind of get an idea of where you are in the state. And happily, I'm going back this fall for a little
Ah,
research trip and a library visit down there. If you're near Fayette, Alabama, I'll be there in November for a
Fayette,
book signing.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That is a bit of magic, and when we do that as writers, right? Something will like catch our imagination or
Mm-hmm.
spark within us. And I know I've argued with myself many times about that's not logical. And I've learned over the years to just not worry about that and just
Yeah.
follow that idea and see where it's taking me.
Yeah.
I don't have to control it. I can let it lead me. So that's kind of what you did with this setting.
Yeah.
So for your magical realism novels, did the setting kind of come first, or what comes first for you? That question about relationship, or what the magic's going to be in this particular book, or what comes first?
It depends on the book. For like Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe, I had the magical idea before I had anything,
Mm-hmm.
which was the blackbird singing messages from loved ones, dead loved ones, into pies, um, which sounds all kinds of strange, but it really works.
It does. It does.
It
And it's
does.
it's a beautiful book and a beautiful idea.
And so but with like south of the buttonwood tree, I knew I needed a forest because of the
Mm-hmm.
buttons. So it's usually the magical element first, and I build the town around it. And I almost always do small towns because I feel like there's a magic in small towns too, with everybody knowing each other. And you can't quite get away with what you might be able to get away with in a big town. And you feel the guilt when you haven't been home for a while. And uh, yeah, and then the characters kind of come. Like, who are these people? Who would need this magic? Why do they need this magic?
Mm-hmm.
What is broke? Most of my books feature characters I call broken. They're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily broken physically, but they're just something within them that they're not at peace with, and they need a little bit of healing. So
Right.
I kind of start factoring that in. In the Lights of Sugarberry Cove, there's Sadie Scott, who is a YouTube host of a YouTube channel, popular
Mm-hmm.
channel, and she's been gone for a while since she'd had an accident in the lake, and she needs to make peace with not necessarily the lake and falling in and dying, really, but the wish she had made that night that she thinks caused the accident, and yeah, her sister also has the same guilt because she also made a wish that night that she thinks came true that caused the accident. So they're both kind of, and who they became after that night, they're not happy with those people. On paper, it all looks great, but on the inside, they know that they're not who they wanted to be.
Okay. So they're a little bit broken
A little
and
bit broken.
need to figure that out. And,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Okay. So Jerry has a question about, um,
Hi,
yeah, Jerry
Jerry.
Bronson Hogue. She asks, when starting this new genre, did you have to do extensive plotting? So How does that work compared to writing plotting mysteries?
All my books kind of go on the same vein, the same wavelength, where I have the beginning, the middle, and the end. So I
Mm-hmm.
know how I start it, I know how it needs to end, and I know like that big kind of turning point in the middle. Um, but I don't really know what's kind of in between at first. So I'll write 100 pages, and the first 100 pages are the longest. They take me the longest. It will be months, 2, 3, 4 months will take me those 100 pages. But once I have that foundation, then I'll sit down and I'll plot out the rest of the book. I'll just, if say I'm on chapter 10, I'll plot out chapters uh, 10 to 25 or 10 to 30 or however long I think I'm going to need to go. Um, and I can do it then because I know the foundation, I know where I'm going. But those first 100 pages to me are all kind of a little blurry when I start, and they don't really come into focus until I get
Mm-hmm.
more into the story. And I get to know my characters, like who are these people? What makes them tick? What are they afraid of? What makes them happy? All those kinds of things. And I kind of I don't want to know that before I start the book because I like figuring it out as I go.
Yeah. If it's surprising to you, it's going to be surprising to your readers.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun to write. For me, it's fun to write that way. And if I'm having fun writing, it's not going to be, oh, I've got to write 10 pages today, or I've got to write, you know,
Mm,
I've got to make this deadline of page count. It's like, okay, I get to do this today.
I get to
Um,
do this.
I
Yeah.
get to do this. So instead, it kind of changes my mindset a little bit when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
That's good. That's good. So, your books also include a lot about food. I believe there's a character in this book with a cooking show. Am I right?
Yes, Sadie's YouTube
Yes,
channel
Sadie's
is a
cooking.
Southern hankering, and
Oh man.
she doesn't necessarily do the cooking, although she does cook well. But she travels to people's houses in the South, and they cook with her a family recipe and share the story behind the recipe. And they're all kind of heartwarming, feel good stories, which I love. So I wish there
Yeah.
was a real channel like that. If there is, somebody needs to tell me
Yeah.
because I'll watch it.
I would watch that. A
Yeah.
Southern hankering. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
I'm there for that.
Yeah.
So did you have a lot of fun researching, making new things, preparing recipes,
I
cooking? Are you cooking up a
I
storm in your kitchen?
I have a whole bunch of recipes I came up with for this book, and only one of them seems to have been the one that kind of took off, which is the banana pudding, Southern style
Mm.
banana pudding. There's going to be a little video on I created a YouTube channel called The Southern Hankerin',
Oh,
in case anybody went looking for it after reading the book. So I'm going to put the banana pudding recipe on there, a little video of it. And I made vanilla scones and tartlets because it's a bed and
mm.
breakfast. So I was making all these um, little treats that maybe you would have at an inn.
Oh, that sounds
But
delightful.
you know me, I hate to bake.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
happiest baking in the kitchen. It's
yes, you love to bake. Well, it's a
Yeah,
different kind of creativity, isn't it?
it is, and then you get something delicious to eat.
That's right. All right. So, any other thoughts you want to share about your new novel coming out tomorrow, The Lights of Sugarberry Cove, about where people can find it or about where you will be, where they can find you besides your website, heatherweber.com?
You can pre-order it now it's order it from Snail on the Wall Bookshop. They have signed copies. I think she has a few left. So I think it's snailonthewall.com. Um, and Foxtail Bookshop is hosting my virtual launch on Thursday. So we're going to be doing
Mm-hmm.
another Zoom book launch. And they have books that have book plates in them. So it's just like the little
Ah,
sticker that goes in the cover. They've signed all
mhm.
those. Um, any bookstore, really, library, you can ask them to order it. Um, I hope that I always hope that when people read my books, that they come away feeling just a little bit happier or
Oh,
more content with life. And they're heartwarming, uplifting books. And I hope people find that.
I hope so too. God,
Yeah.
because I've loved them, and I know other readers will too. So, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for joining me for some tea.
This time goes so fast.
I know it
I've got
does.
my creative juice mug.
Oh,
friend gifted this to me, full of my black raspberry tea, so I was
oh,
having my tea
perfect.
too.
Creative juice. I love that.
Yeah.
That could be all kinds of things, I'm
I know,
thinking.
who knows what's in there really? Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what's in that tea? Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for you, and
Thank
thank
you.
everybody who's watching live, and everybody who catches it later or catches it as a podcast. Thank you for joining us for Tea with Jess, and until our next tea break, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and have fun.